Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C, and this is Charlton and Big C Sports, and we're talking real sports worldwide every Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Charlton and Big C show. Also want to thank all of our fans in Latin America, so bienvenidos to you. I'm actually learning Spanish, Big C, over in London and Berlin, as well as a great country of Canada, and of course throughout the United States. Today is May the 3rd, 2015, Big C, and I know you love talking about sports, and this segment is sponsored by Bud Light. I know you good old boys love your Bud Light because it tastes great and lets you lose weight, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I'm about a can short of a six-pack today. I mean, we had some heat that tipped in the 80s today, so if I go to sleep during the show, don't just carry on without me.
Okay, I understand that, Big C. And also, you know, we have a lot to cover today. Just a fascinating world in the sports business because we have some NBA games that have some questionable calls down the stretch. We have Bryce Harper, who's talking about a lot of money with Under Armour, and then I think the Kings are already looking for another coach, like the 8th time in the last 6 years. So we'll get into some of that.
They can't find anybody who wants to live in Sacramento, Charlton.
Hey, wait, it's a great city. The state capital is a great city, but sometimes it's who you allow.
When Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor of California, he commuted back to Burbank every night, okay?
Okay, I understand. The nice weather in all the golf courses is kind of hard to deal with. I understand that, Big C. But speaking of guys that come back, I know you like to blend Hollywood with sports, and you like to talk about a lot of the great actors that want to be athletes and some of the great athletes that want to be actors. None other than the great Mike Tyson, Big C. He's someone that, at the peak of his game, you could talk about Ali, you could talk about Foreman, you could talk about Sonny Liston, Dempsey, all of them, Marciano. But Mike Tyson, he struck fear in mostly everybody that he fought when he was back in the day, Big C.
You know, Mike Tyson, Charlton, was probably the most devastating puncher in the history of the heavyweight game.
Yeah.
Even the referees at ringside.
Yeah.
You know, the judges, they feared Mike Tyson that he might throw a wild punch.
Mills Lane.
You know, you hardly ever saw an official jump in and separate him, you know?
Yeah.
You know, but Mike was just, I mean, he changed the face of boxing, Charlton. When you think about the fights he had with Riddick Bowe,
yeah,
the fights he had with Marvis Frazier, you know, Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
This man was just devastating, Charlton. He hit people with mean intent.
Yeah. You
know, that's what he did. His job, as he looked at it, was to go out and hurt somebody.
Yeah.
It wasn't to fight. It was to hurt somebody. And we saw that when he transcended over into acting, Charlton. Everybody will remember him from the movie Hangover.
Yeah.
He played in the first two Hangover movies, Charlton, with Bradley Cooper. You know. And when he knocked out Galifianakis, you know, in the movie, you know, Mike still had his punch, and they're like, wow, Mike, you still got it. You know?
I know that, you know how when you're in Hollywood, you got to take sometimes from 5 to 15 cuts. I'm sure that they got that done in one cut, Big C, because you don't want to have Mike Tyson have a flashback.
Let's do that in one. But, you know, Mike was marvelous for the world of sports, Charlton.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of people who bought seats for his fights that never got a chance to use them. They still have the dust in them, you know. Because if you came from the concession, you may not have got there before the referee started counting. That's just how notorious Mike was for ending fights early, but he was well respected in the game early in his career when he had Customato and Jacobs.
Yeah, Customato.
You know, in his camp.
Yeah.
You know, they honed him from a young man to a professional, and the world was a better place when Mike Tyson was the heavyweight champion of the world. Everybody knew who he was. The sport was great. Now we don't even know who the heavyweight champion is, Charlton.
Yeah, well,
Mike Tyson left a huge void after his series with Evander Holyfield.
Yeah, I remember that fight with Holyfield. That's when he bit Holyfield in the ear, and they didn't stop the fight, Big C. They actually let him keep going, and then he bit his other ear before, I think it was Mills Lane.
Mills Lane, a great official. Now, Mills Lane also, Charlton, many people may not know, Mills Lane was a boxing champ when he was in college.
Yeah.
Mills Lane amassed a record 60-0, NCAA champion when he was in college. Mills Lane not only was a great official, but he was also a judge and a sheriff in the city of Reno, Nevada, Charlton.
Yeah, I mean, he's been in some of the great fights, and I think when you think about Mike Tyson also, another great comedian with him was Don King. As a great promoter, we know King and Arum, and King was in it for the money. I've talked to a couple of fighters that were represented by Don King, but Don King was known for just being about the business. And I think sometimes people think that he didn't care as much about his fighters as he did about the money, Big C. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that he was great at promoting. And now that he's out of the business, I think his daughter's running the business. But boxing is not what it was back in the days of Holyfield and Tyson and Sugar Ray Leonard and of course, the great Muhammad Ali and Larry Holmes and those guys. I really miss the days of Thomas Hitman Hearns and even Marvin Hagler and all those guys.
That may have been the greatest 3-round fight in history.
Yeah.
Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hitman Hearns.
Yeah.
They hit each other so hard for 3 rounds. It was ridiculous. And Hagler eventually ended up winning that fight, but it was the greatest 3-round fight that I ever saw of 2 gladiators just going out there punishing each other, Charlton.
Yeah, and it's a great to see that. And I love boxing, and I miss it because MMA has taken over with the likes of Conor McGregor. And we know that every time they get into the ring, there's always a chance anyone can go down. I think Buster Douglas proved that. But also, speaking of great sponsors, this segment is also sponsored by Beneath His Wings Foundations. To support or donate, go to bhwf.org and contact Cynthia Evans of CYNN Entertainment. She's the best at promotions in Northern California. But also, Big C, as we finish up with Mike Tyson, I just want to add this part that we know the Rocky series that we've talked about with the great Sylvester Stallone, and he had Apollo Creed and all those great Rocky movies. But when you look at a guy that came from really nothing, it was Mike Tyson. Because Mike Tyson, he did it in real life, not acting, but real life. And not only did he go through almost everything a pro athlete could go through, he still managed to land on his feet. And that's what impressed me more about him, because a lot of guys like Sonny Liston, they didn't fare too well, Big C, if you know what I mean.
Well, they didn't fare well. You could go all the way back, Charlton, to the great Brown bomber, Joe Louis.
Yeah.
Joe Louis was left, decimated financially after his career. He donated so much money to the war fund.
Yeah.
And during World War II, but the IRS still came after him. He gave money to the government, and yet they still pilfered his pockets and took everything from him.
Yeah.
But when you look at so many boxers over history, many boxers left the game. When you talk about a Don King, where you had promoters take it all. Now, we've seen a massive amount of money that Floyd Mayweather has made over the past decade, but he promotes himself. He's become a billionaire in the boxing game, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, he learned how to control his product. It's what we've talked about with this show. You have to control your own product, be your own boss. And that's what Floyd Mayweather had done. He controls every part of his entity. So the finances come through him, not through somebody else to get to him, Charlton.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about sports, too, because as you know, Big C, and this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealer, home of the all-new Escalade, the standard of the world. You can only get it there new, and when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. So when we look at that, Big C, and we talk about boxing and how great Mike Tyson has been to the world of boxing, we can even transition that into baseball, because Bryce Harper, a stud for the Washington Nationals, here he is signing the biggest contract in the history of Major League Baseball with Under Armour, Big C. The amount is undisclosed, but when you think about athletes and their endorsements, that's big money, Big C. How does an athlete like Harper get so much money and he hasn't won a World Series yet?
Well, he hasn't won anything yet, Charlton. Bryce Harper was a kid who left high school early and went to a junior college to play baseball because the competition was not up to the level that he and his father thought that it was. He ended up being the first overall draft pick in the Major League Draft at 18, Charlton.
Yeah.
But he has not disappointed since he's been in the Major Leagues. Now, he just signed this enormous deal with Under Armour. Under Armour is the new aggressive sports apparel company.
Yeah.
When you look at some of the universities that they signed, like Notre Dame, you can't get bigger than Notre Dame when it comes to endorsement. They have some SEC schools like South Carolina, also Charleston.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that schools in the SEC get endorsements and the athletes still pay for free?
No. I was saying that the university uses their product.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
I never seen any financial transaction took place there.
Okay, just making sure because we know they can't pay the athletes.
But they also have Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So when you look at two of the major sports in America, with baseball and the NBA.
Yeah.
And you have Steph Curry and Bryce Harper, two of the youngest, hottest guns in both leagues, representing your product. You can pay them all the endorsement money that you want because the return on investment that you're going to get from those players, Charlton, will be enormous over time.
Well, speaking of being enormous over time, Big C, and I know that we talk about endorsements. I mean, Harper reminds me of Barry Bonds, and Barry Bonds reminded me of Reggie Jackson at one time. And I know that Reggie Jackson probably reminded a lot of people of Hank Aaron. But you think about the money that's being made by these athletes, and baseball, unlike the NFL, they have guaranteed contracts, but this is on top of his performance. This is just to wear the uniform or the shoes, Big C. How does that come into play where it's almost like the life of the haves and the have-nots, not only in corporate America, but in the sports world too, Big C? They're not talking about guys that won a World Series. They're talking about a guy that can hit the home run. And I know we don't want to talk about enhancements, but a lot of times when guys were hitting home runs, they also had some juice, Big C. I'm not saying Harper does, but they're still trying to reward guys that can hit the home run, Big C.
Well, Charlton, if you look at it here, early in the season, baseball has already popped 8 players with suspensions for performance-enhancing drugs. Matter of fact, they hit the second one today with an 80-game suspension. So, baseball is more exciting when the home run is hitting it. If you go back to the days of a Mark McGwire or Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, when these guys were chasing the home run record, Charlton, the single-season home run record, baseball was at a frenzied pace as far as fan excitement. Baseball can go through lows because, teams who want to play small ball, like the Oakland A's had played for years. Just play with the analytics. Just manufacture a couple of runs. You hit a home run, the whole stadium becomes electrified, Charlton, and that's where it is. I mean, I go back to Batista last year in the playoff game with Toronto when he hit the home run. And everybody said that he was being cocky and it was bad for baseball. No, it was the excitement of the game, of an athlete. All the people who said it was bad for the game have probably never hit a game-winning home run in a playoff series, Charlton.
Yeah, and when you think about... Go ahead, Big C.
You're probably a little more jealous than you are anything else. And I remember Goose Gossage at the beginning of the baseball season, blasting Bryce Harper because Harper said that baseball had gotten boring. Okay? Now, Goose Gossage won a few World Series with the Yankees. He has a stellar career behind him. Hall of Famer, future Hall of Famer if not. But Bryce Harper was speaking about today's times. But Bryce Harper was rewarded with the largest endorsement contract because of what he said and the way that he plays, Charlton.
Oh, yeah, and when you think about, you mentioned the player with the 80-game suspension. That's the Dodgers. His name is Ravin. He gets an 80-game drug suspension, Josh Ravin, 80 games because he tested positive for a growth hormone. And, obviously, it's a banned substance. A lot of people don't understand what's banned and what's not banned, according to them.
You can't tell me that. When you have agents, you have nutritionists, you have team trainers and doctors who are abreast of everything that you can and cannot take. All major league sports, whether it's baseball, football, or basketball, has a list of banned substance in the locker room as well as in the training room, Charlton. For an intelligent man, an adult, to say, well, I was not aware of what I was taking, that's like a man walking into the women's restroom and say, I couldn't read the sign on the door.
Well, I understand that. But he did say in his own words he unknowingly took a supplement that contained a banned substance after intestinal fluid and strep throat caused him to lose 20 pounds during spring training. And he's a right-hander. He's been on the disabled list since the start of the season with a broken left arm. So, obviously players are going to find a way sometime to cheat the system, Big C. And when they get caught, obviously, instead of just saying, hey, I did something stupid, they obviously have a way to cover up for it. But I just want to cover a couple of scores also in baseball. The American League, the Twins 6-2 over the Astros. It was the Rangers 2 and the Blue Jays 1. The Mariners 4, the A's 3. And in the National League, we have the Mets 4-1 over the Braves. The Cubs, they're looking really good this year. They beat the Pirates 7-2. It was the Cardinals 10-3 over the Phillies. And the San Francisco Giants 9-6 over the Reds. So, Big C, what do we say for athletes?
Let me go back to the Cubs for a second here, Charles. Jake Arrieta, the pitcher for the Cubs, he's 5-0 this year. Okay, and he's basically unhittable. He has a 1.0 ERA. Now, you think about a 1.0. We haven't heard an ERA like that from a starting pitcher, Charlton, since 1964 when Bob Gibson had a 1.12.
Yeah.
And the Cardinals won the World Series that year.
Yeah.
So if this is any indicator of what the Cubs season is going to be like, they may make the World Series first time since 1908.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
If Arrieta can keep pitching like he is, I mean, a 1.0 ERA, Charlton, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. They're rolling right now. They're actually 18-6, and they lead the Central Division of the National League. Pittsburgh's 15-11. St. Louis is tied at 13-13. Milwaukee's 10-15, and Cincinnati is also 10-16. But when you look at baseball and you look up at we talked about Harper and the Washington Nationals, they're 18-7, so they're off to a strong start. New York is 16-8, and in the West, the San Francisco Giants are 14-13, and they lead the Dodgers by a half game. They're also 13-13. But again, you know how Jose Canseco said that he wrote this book and he was ostracized because he told the truth. And a lot of players, they fought it because, Big C, you guys aren't going to come out and say they're doing something. Most guys, they know they're doing something, okay? Most owners know they're doing something because when guys put on 30 and 40 pounds, they know something's happening, Big C. So do you think we're seeing how this wave of coming back, you talked about 8 guys being suspended, Big C, is that coming back now where we have to start testing players more vigorously, Big C?
Baseball has a very rigorous drug testing program now. If you remember how Alex Rodriguez a couple of years ago was villainized for his use of banned substances in baseball, and in his quest for the all-time home run record also, Charlton.
Yeah.
But it's not just the power hitters that are taking it. I mean, Roger Clemens, if you go back and you look at Roger Clemens' career, when he came out of University of Texas, he weighed about 180 pounds as a pitcher.
Right.
In his final year pitching of baseball, he weighed 250 in the major leagues.
Yeah.
So here's a pitcher who gained 80 pounds, 70 pounds during his professional career, Charlton.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a beer gut. So you look at some of these pitchers. I remember Hoyt Wilhelm, who used to play for the White Sox back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And, he didn't know he had a zipper on his pants because, he had that Dunlap disease.
I understand.
But you look at Roger Clemens, he looked like a linebacker throwing fastballs on the mound.
Yeah, I understand. And he was a great pitcher. And I know because there's always two sides of the story. The guys that are using it are pitching. Some guys that are using it are hitting. But it kind of balances each other out. It's just that baseball's not really honest about it because they put a lot of pressure on these guys to hit the home run. They put a lot of pressure on these guys to throw 99 miles per hour. It's a lot of pressure, and that's what people want to see. Even the new stadiums, a lot of home run fields, even at AT&T Park in San Francisco, the right field home run fence is 309 feet. It's not like it's 350 feet. So they want a shorter fence. They want to see more home runs. They want to see this, Big C. It's just that when someone gets caught, it's the players that have to pay for it, not the owners. No fines against the teams. It's always the players that are put under the pressure, and they're the ones popped for a Big C.
Well, they have to find a way in all professional sports, Charlton, not just punish the players. Now, we've seen a lot of that in the NFL with players getting 4-game suspension, 8-game suspensions in the NFL for failing a substance abuse test.
Yeah.
Now, there's no upper echelon results far as somebody else being penalized.
Right.
Now, when you start putting an equal fine on a team that the player receives, now that player's losing 4-game checks.
Yeah.
Now, if you start fining the team all the time that amount of money, or even twice the amount that the player's losing, then the team will police itself a little more. But there's no discipline laid in the NFL. Now, we talked earlier in the year about Robert Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
Now, as an owner, you get busted with $27 grand in OxyContin in your passenger seat.
Yeah.
I don't know what he thought she looked like, but she kept him comfortable. Okay.
Right.
But all he got from the commissioner, Roger Goodell, he had a 6-month suspension.
Yeah.
Now, I'm still trying to figure out the last time Robert Irsay went to practice or even suited up for a game.
Yeah.
So how did that affect him, Charlton? It didn't.
Well, that's
It did
true.
not affect him at all. So if you're to take a draft pick, now Tom Brady and the New England Patriots with Robert Kraft lose a draft pick over an allegation. Now, this was no allegation against Irsay.
Yeah.
The police caught him with this. So you're going to believe what the police say, or are you going to believe the owner that was high? I guess that's what it comes down to. But you had a team that lost a draft pick. Now, this is the same team that Irsay owned. They were playing against the Patriots.
Yeah, that's true.
And so when you look at the level of discipline and actions from the commissioner versus various organizations, you got to say he had a bullseye and a target on the Patriots.
Yeah.
And Irsay has had a history of alcohol and drug abuse. And all he's gotten is a pat on the back, not even a slap on the hand.
Well, I agree with that very much, Big C. And this segment is also sponsored by your Northern California BMW dealer, home of the ultimate driving machine. You can go down and test drive the 1 Series and also the all-new flagship M7 600 horsepower of raw power. It is, in fact, the ultimate driving machine. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, I know that you're a big NBA fan, and we know Golden State, they're tearing up the league this year. They set the world on fire, 73-9, best record ever in the NBA. Even as broke can see that. But last night, the game of OKC and the San Antonio Spurs, Serge Ibaka and the Thunder held off LaMarcus Aldridge, who went for 41 points, and they beat the Spurs 98-97. Only the second loss at home for San Antonio since Golden State beat them in the regular season. However, there's a lot of questionable calls in these games, Big C, because number one, the inbounder gave the elbow to the San Antonio defender and knocked him back.
Which should have been an offensive foul, Charlton. Ginobili caught an elbow.
Ginobili caught an elbow.
There was 3 fouls on that play, Charlton, that you could have easily called.
Yeah.
Serge Ibaka had one on the play. Also, Patty Mills had one.
Yeah.
It's what we had talked about earlier. The NBA does not want a 4-game series, Charlton.
Yeah.
That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for 6-game series here in this semifinal.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do, this divisional final. They want 6-game series. There's economics involved in that. There's TV contracts. There's viewership.
Yeah.
So you're going to get some mysterious calls and non-calls, Charlton. We talked about it. If you get close to LeBron, when he's getting off the bus, you're going to get a foul call.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
You don't even have to be on the court. If you're close to him on the bus, he's going to, get the whistle.
Well, Kevin.
So, when you look at that and you have the fans who've paid good money.
Yeah.
Sitting in the arenas as well as the cheapskates who sit at home and watch the game. So, the beer is cheaper at home than what it is in the arena. So,
especially when it's moonshine, Big C, especially when it's moonshine.
You got to decide where you want to make your investment, Charles.
I understand.
But, I think that you're robbing and doing an injustice to the fans' integrity. As an official, you're a paid expert.
Yeah.
And when you let these calls go uncalled, you hurt a lot of people.
Yeah.
Pride, integrity, records, all of that, Charlton. And the commissioner, Adam Silver, has to find a way to correct that. I mean, we've seen these egregious calls in the NHL and hits. Now, the NHL is suspending players. Yeah. Even though we have no Canadian teams in Lord Stanley's Cup this year. Yeah. But the NHL and Gary Bettman has it right.
Yeah, that's true.
If a player does something outside the guidelines and integrity of the game, he gets a 1 to 3 game suspension. Yeah. We're not getting that in the NBA. And the NBA needs to pull itself up from its bootstrap and man up a little bit, Charlton.
Yeah. Well, I think also last night, there was also talk that Kevin Durant may have been fouled on the inbound pass. He had 28 points for the Thunder, and they lost by 32 points, Big C, in Game 1. And I think for Ginobili, he's also known as a flopper, so that may have cost him in the mind of the officials because sometimes you can walk right by him and he'll fall on the ground. So maybe that went against him as well, but I still want to see the games decided by the players in the end. It was a fantastic game, and I think it sets up a chance for OKC to go up 2-1 because they're going home, but I don't see them leaving OKC up 3-1. It looks like they may split in OKC. But also across the board, the Cleveland Cavaliers 104, the Hawks 93, and this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Ford dealer, home of the all-new F-150. They build it Ford tough, and when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. LeBron James, 25 points. Kyrie Irving added 21 with Cleveland, and they had a good second half as they knocked off the Atlanta Hawks 104-93, Big C. You think Atlanta has a chance to at least win 2 games in this series?
Well, you would like to see them be a little more competitive. Now, Charlton, they came from 17 points down last night.
Yeah.
So they made a long run, but, you run out of steam also when you got to come from that many points behind. But they showed that they could be competitive. And in that game also, there was a couple of missed calls late. Yeah. That may would have allowed the game to be even closer. But, you know, we know that Cleveland is going to make it to the conference finals, Charlton. That's a given.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any difference who they play. But they have the Toronto Raptors, a team of young, exciting talent who has won their first playoff series for the first time since 2001, Charlton.
Yeah.
And they've advanced. They have probably the greatest fan base right now in the NBA when you talk about 22,000 people inside the arena, 20,000 people outside the arena. That's motivation.
Yeah.
That's spirit. And that's one of the things that's been lacking in professional sports for decades.
Yeah.
But that team up north on the other side of the border,
as
they would say, old Canada.
Don't tell Donald Trump there's a team that comes. Don't tell Donald Trump we have a team coming inside the United States taking away jobs.
Oh,
they might build a wall in Canada.
He wants to deport them before they can start the game. My bad.
He may just do that, Big C. He may just do that. And also, Big C, this final segment is sponsored by United Labor Insurance Services. They issue guaranteed insurance. You can tweet out the Charlton and Big C Sports. And if you're looking to get insurance, you can get it with no health questions. All you have to do is have full-time employment of at least 20 hours or more per week. And when you tweet it out, tweet it that Charlton and Big C sent you. Now, Big C, in our final few minutes of the program, one of the best coaches in the NBA, Doc Rivers, he doesn't want to split up the Clippers. And he would not break up the Los Angeles Clippers' big three of Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan. I think Doc is a great coach. And I think the Clippers, every year they have the same problem. They can't get over the hump. They got in Paul Pierce. We know they had Paul breaking his hand this year. Also, Griffin got hurt again. But I really like Doc Rivers. I think that he's a guy that can build a team. But I don't know if they can do it with these big three, Big C, because they've tried it for 3 years now.
Well, Charlton, when you think about this, you know, this is a team that gets so close to the precipice that they just can't get over the hump. I mean, we've seen this in other sports where teams are right there, and for some reason, due to injury or whatever, they just can't do it. And we've seen two catastrophic injuries this year with the Clippers, with Griffin and, you know, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Now, you can't replace those players, Charlton. You might replace one, but you're not going to replace two.
Yeah.
But the sad part about it is that a coach like Doc Rivers gets the blame. And once again, we look at a minority coach in sports who is being blamed and saying that his team is underachieving.
Because guys break their hands, huh?
It's more like a Marvin Lewis scenario.
Yeah.
We're not happy with you making playoffs. Now, if you were drafted in the first 5 draft picks every year, we would be happy with you. We give you a contract extension, all of these things. You know, you look at Fisher. Fisher got a 4-year contract extension, and he hasn't won 30 games in 4 years being in St. Louis, okay, Charlton?
Yeah, I understand that.
Marvin Lewis has made the playoffs every year. All he got was a 1-year contract extension.
Yeah.
Now, I'm trying to evaluate that, and nothing against Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher had an outstanding career.
Yeah.
He played defensive back at USC. He played defensive back with the Houston Oilers. Head coach of the Houston Oilers / Tennessee Titans.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Los Angeles Rams. So he's had a stellar football career.
Well, breaking news also.
All Marvin Lewis did was won a Super Bowl as defensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. So he doesn't have much of a resume when you think about it.
Well, I hear that.
He's made the playoffs all but 1 year as a coach with the Bengals. So, you know, you don't get a vote of confidence when you do that as a minority coach.
Well, I hear that Fisher may also be suiting up for the USC Trojans when they take the white horse down to the good old state of Texas and beat up on you good old boys from Alabama in the kickoff classic. There's a reason he went back to L.A.
So they signed Lynn Swan, going to dress him.
Yep.
You know, he's going to come out as athletic. They're going to bring Jeff Fisher.
Ronnie Lott's coming too, baby.
They play in the Coliseum. So I guess since Pat Hayden retired, they're going to have to bring him back as quarterback. Right?
They're going to bring Pat Hayden back at quarterback, and they're saying, just don't drink the moonshine from down south. Bring your own Gatorade.
Well, I don't think they can get Reggie Bush to play because they can't pay him enough now, okay? So
I understand. In the last few minutes, Big C, I know the Sacramento Kings, they are on another search for another coach. They have guys like Kevin McHale, Nick McMillan, Mark Jackson, even the great Patrick Ewing, as well as David Blatt in the hiring. They just got rid of a great coach, and now they're looking for like the 8th coach in the last 6 years. They're going into the new Golden One Center next year. They still have DeMarcus Cousins being the lead guy on that team. They're trying to build a team under him. So every coach has to understand that, Big C. I hope it works, but what are your thoughts on that, Big C? They keep getting rid of the wrong people. If you keep getting rid of coaches, your team continues to be in the abyss of the league. Doesn't that leave a clue, Big C? It's not the coaching.
Well, you got to understand, Charlton, and regardless of the sports, the front office doesn't always know what's going on.
Yeah.
On the playing field. You know, these guys have teams that they own because it's a toy. You got that much money. You're a billionaire when you own an NBA team.
Yeah.
But if the Kings are going to hire a coach, they need to hire a coach that can look Cousins eye to eye. Now, there's two people that come to mind for me, Charlton. You already mentioned Patrick Ewing.
Yeah.
You know, who's been a long-time assistant in the NBA, and this last season was with the Magic.
Yeah.
But the coach that I like the most is Bob McAdoo, Charlton.
Yeah.
Bob McAdoo has been a long-time assistant with the Miami Heat. He's won a few championships down there. He played with the Lakers. Now, Bob McAdoo is out of North Carolina, played under the great Dean Smith back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Led the NCAA in scoring. Also, when he came to the NBA, he was Rookie of the Year with the Buffalo Braves.
Yeah.
He won 2 consecutive scoring titles. So this man understands the game. He's 6'10". He can look Cousins eye to eye. He's a great defensive strategist as well as knowing offense.
Yeah.
Now, he's been down under Kevin Spoelstra for the past half-decade down in Miami, Charlton, and he's worked with Pat Riley. So this is a guy I feel that can command the sideline in Sacramento.
Yeah.
And that's what they need to look at. I like Patrick Ewing also, and I'd hate to see Patrick just be a lifetime assistant in the NBA. I hope somebody gives him a chance.
Yeah.
But Kevin McHale proved that he couldn't handle Dwight Howard down in Houston.
Yeah, that's true.
Another big man that's a troubling player on a team, Charlton.
Yeah, I agree with that. And speaking of NBA action tonight, Toronto's a 4.5-point favorite over the Miami Heat, and the Golden State Warriors are a 10-point favorite over the Portland Trail Blazers. In the NHL, the New York Islanders, they're favored over Tampa. St. Louis is favored over Dallas, and Nashville is favored over San Jose. So, Big C, the last thing I want to say in the last few minutes of the program, we opened up talking about Mike Tyson and how he was great for the sport of boxing, and how Mayweather right now, they're talking about $100 million for Mayweather to fight again for his 50th fight. What does a guy like Mike Tyson thinks when he was fighting for like $10, $15 million, knocking guys out in the first round, second round? Mayweather's talking about $100 million, and his fights always go the distance, Big C. What's a guy like Mike Tyson think about that?
Well, Charlton, I'm right now waiting on somebody to offer me $100, okay?
And
I'll be there.
I'll fight for $100.
I guess when you compare Mayweather and Tyson, you're paying them based on minutes work.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at Mike Tyson, when you go out and you knock somebody out in 91 seconds and you made $12 million, that's not a bad payday.
No.
Versus having 10, 12 rounds of dancing to make that $100 million. So they equate about the same.
Yeah.
But Mike Tyson created the opportunity for Floyd Mayweather, just like Muhammad Ali created the opportunity for Mike Tyson. Now, when you go back to the fight in Kinshasa, Zaire with George Foreman and Ali, that was the first $5 million fight in boxing history. Now, you think about that. This is 1973, 1974, Charlton. $5 million purse.
A lot of money.
For this fight.
Yeah.
A lot of money. Huge dollars. But, then we look at Mayweather being offered $100 million. Times and everything has changed.
It has definitely changed, Big C. And speaking of change, we are also out of time. Every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Worldwide, the Charlton and Big C Sports. We love talking sports. We love listening to you and telling us what you like on Twitter. So keep sending us tweets for Charlton and Big C Sports every Monday through Friday, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide on the Charlton and Big C Show. And we thank you, and we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.